Good to go.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are back again with another absolute beginner does an appliance repair. So if you are new here, I am Sarah. I am usually behind the camera. And Chris, who is our video host and certified repair tech, is usually the one doing these repairs because he has all the expertise. But since our mission is to teach people how to do their home repairs, we are putting me into the mix to fix the appliance. So today it's going to be a bake element in an oven.
So bake element is probably one of the most common parts to fail in a basic range. And it is a normal wearing part. Eventually, you're going to have an element change, depending on how often you use your oven and how long it's on for and all kinds of great things. So sometimes these elements will go for 7, 10 years, never be a problem. Some will go 2 or 3 years and they suddenly fail. But it's an easy repair. And we want to show you today just how easy it is to do that you shouldn't be concerned about attempting it yourself. So we've got two stoves here. If we have enough time, we'll go to do them both. One is the hidden bake element. The other one is a typical basic range in which the element is exposed. And that's what Sarah's going to swap out today. And then we'll talk a little bit about the element and how you know it's getting ready to fail and some stuff. So just some basic information on the bake element and how you look after your stove. So.
Like every stream we do, if you have questions about what we are doing or about home appliances, outdoor power equipment, DIY, maintenance in general, that's why we still have Chris here. He is the expert to answer all of those questions. I am just here to show you that you do not need to be a certified repair expert to do this yourself.
Yeah.
The basic homeowner can take care of this.
Yeah. Most appliance repairs, as far as component changing, just about anybody can do. Most repairs require a few basic hand tools and just a little bit of knowledge. And that's what we hope to with our site, is to be able to provide you with that information through different tutorials, videos, and just actually even some 3D animations on some of them so that you can feel comfortable in doing the repair yourself. So Sarah, let's go for it.
All right, so step number one for any appliance repair is disconnecting the power.
Right.
Which
this way
guy
is
not plugged in.
Not plugged in. So if your range plugs in, unplug it. If yours is hardwired in, you're going to want to go to your breaker panel, turn off the breaker, and make sure that it's powered down.
And this is an electric range too. This isn't a gas.
That's right.
Setup. Yeah. So there's no gas to worry about here. It's just electric. All right. So step one is we're gonna take the door off this guy.
Yep.
Okay. So you put little light.
I put some lights in so we can see.
Nice. Okay. I'm like, we don't have power, but there's lights. little headlamps.
Yep.
So I have tiny little T-Rex arms. So we're gonna take the door off so that I can actually reach in for the harness.
Yeah.
So removing an oven door. We've got little hinges.
Right. Actually, I'll grab you some tools so you can do the repair.
And none of this equipment is fancy or expensive.
No.
We have a basic toolkit.
Yeah.
This here will all be in it.
So you can do a bake element removal installation without taking the door off. It's just awkward. And it's a little hard on the back to be around here and get in here and get the wires off. So from a service point of view, I always prefer taking the door off. That's your choice if you don't want to get involved in that. The only thing about taking doors off is the doors are spring loaded, and each manufacturer will have their own version of how the door hinge comes off. Old style doors on older ranges, you would just over them to the broil point, lift them up and pull them out. Now, the new ranges that you're seeing, the doors have to be locked in place, or the hinge has to be locked. So for this stove, if we were to pull this door off, these hinges would snap in the shut position and make it very, very difficult in order to put it back in. So you just have to check your owner's manual or look at your door hinge and see if they have latches or a place like this one does, where you're going to put in, you can either use small screwdrivers or just a couple of metal pins. They have to insert into the hinge.
Right. Okay.
So I'll give you that one
Yep.
for your side. Slide it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
And then bring your door up.
Like we're closing it?
Yep. Just,
Okay.
we're going to close it just slowly because we don't want to.
Crack anything?
We don't want to crack.
Okay. So that's as high up as the door is going.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what are we lifting up?
Yep. You're going to get straight up.
Ooh, we're lifting the whole thing. Stronger than I look. Is this pin a problem? Oh, okay.
Oh, Sarah, we forgot something. This stove, and not all of them are like this stove has little retainers that have to be removed first.
Noted. Okay. Let's see.
You got that. Now, some manufacturers have some sort of retainer. Some of them will have a plate with a screw in them. Some don't have anything, but this one does. So right down here, we're just going to take a putty knife. And I'm just going to pop it out. It's just a little spring clip. And it makes a world of difference when you take those out.
Okay.
You want to do the other side?
I'll try. This way. Okay, so what is it we're
So you're
looking
just,
for? Oh, this piece here?
yep, you just slip it in behind and then just sort of pry up. There you go. You got her.
All right.
Now try and take the door off.
All it is. Okay.
And you'll see it's much easier.
So, ooh, it's lighter. Is that like the springs that were?
There you go.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I think it just hates me. Like that. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
One side.
There we go. Okay, guys, we have an oven door. So
Perfect.
they do come off.
Yep.
It's a great time to clean it if you
It is.
I'm just gonna hide this behind. They're also heavier than they look.
Especially in the self-clean range, to Sarah's point, the doors do have some weight to them. There's several different layers. There's usually 3 panes of glass that add to the weight, as well as there's also insulation and mounting equipment in there. So the self-clean doors are a little heavy, but you know, they certainly are manageable. All right, Sarah, now we want to whip those wraps in.
This part, I know. Easy peasy. All right.
Perfect.
Good time to clean these two.
So now we have full access to the bake element, and bake elements come in a million different shapes and sizes depending on the make and model of stove. But they're all typically connected to the oven cavity with 1 or 2 screws. So in this case, it's just 2 down there in the middle that we'll take out of there, Sarah.
All right. Well, were you getting mobile with the camera on? So
Yep.
we can get
Yeah.
here?
Hang on, everybody. We're going handheld. All righty.
Okay, so this is the bake element. That's what heats all your food up.
Yep.
And Suppose they don't have to worry about losing these down a drain or anything.
No, we should be okay. Not saying I haven't misplaced them a time or two. Or had the family pet come along and pick up one and take it away.
Oof, that sounds like a more expensive bill than doing the repair.
Okay.
All right.
So there. So Sarah took the screws out and then she just pulled the element straight out. And this being an older stove, you see how far that element can come out. So now we can take the wires off individually.
Okay. Do I need pliers or they just come off the harness?
Probably pliers.
Okay.
So you'll just want to grip the terminal.
Back here?
Yep. Right back there.
Nope. That I am right-handed and doing this on the left hand.
Yeah.
Just wiggle it off.
Just wiggle it off.
Ooh, is it supposed to bend like that?
Well, you'd rather not bend it if you
Okay.
can. There you go. Straight back. Yep.
All right. Oh, there we go. I was like, we need some dexterity.
There you go.
That one's a little.
Yeah. So same thing again. You want to come to this
Yeah,
side?
like, let's switcheroo.
Let's switch sides. So the nice thing with this stove being an older one, the manufacturer gives you a fair bit of slack in the wiring, so you can pull it out like this to do what we're doing. Now, some of the newer ones I found, in order to save themselves some money, they only make the wire long enough in order to reach the terminal. So in some cases on the newer machines, you actually have to pull the oven straight out, take the back off, and remove those wires before you come around from the front and take the screws out. If what'll happen if you don't do that, if you just take the screws out, start to pull it out, and you don't have that extra length, you continue to pull, the wire may pull off, and then you're still going to have to take it apart at the back in order to reconnect it.
Right. So should I go grab a new?
Well, let's test this.
Okay.
Let's test this one to see if it's good or not.
Multimeter time.
Yep. So we're going to use a basic multimeter, which is this style. Now this one's fairly expensive, but you can get a multimeter at your local hardware building supply store. Very inexpensive, and we only don't need to use a whole lot of the functions on this other than we want to do a continuity test.
Continuity. Okay, so which?
The one down here that says buzz.
Okay.
Just want that arrow to come around to that.
All the way there. So this should buzz if we have continuity?
Yeah, if you touch your two leads together right now,
and it
should make a sound. There we go. That means we have a continuous circuit. So now if you take one probe and put it on.
And it doesn't matter which color
doesn't
to which
matter.
side?
Nope.
Okay. So we got
one on one lead.
So connection's open now. It's not.
Okay.
And
okay.
So that
tells us this element is good.
Okay.
If we did that same test and we had no sound and no reading on the meter of a completed circuit, then that element would be bad.
And then what does it read? Does it read something on the meter itself, or it's just the sound we're going for?
Have a look and see.
1, -1, -1, or something flashing on there.
So we can read the resistance of it just by adjusting the multimeter, but for what we're looking to demonstrate to you folks is just a matter of knowing that there's continuity. The individual resistance is going to vary based on the element and the stove and the make. So you don't have to worry about knowing what the resistance is, just the fact that you have a completed circuit inside. So this element is still good, so we can use that to put back in. But one of the things to consider while you've got it out is one of the problems that sometimes happens with ranges is the wires. Sometimes if they're not really tight, these ones were tight today, but if they're on there loose over time, these connections will get to the point where they start to overheat and they'll actually burn the element, or I'm sorry, burn the terminal and the end of the element off, so that you have to repair that wire and possibly replace the element if the terminal itself is, all burnt and pitted. So anyway, just a great time to check those wires, make sure they're in good condition.
The element itself, this is where we'd see some, like if it's overheating or corroding, it'd be like black and
Yep.
charred here.
Yeah. So if the terminal is loose on there, then you would see that, as you said, pitted, burnt, and you would need to try and either clean up that terminal, or if it's bad enough, and in most cases it's usually bad enough, you have to replace the element as well.
I'll grab our busted one for an example. Terminal's okay.
Okay, so bake elements and broil elements, or any element, even the convection ones, they are a metal case, and inside that metal case there is a thin filament. If I can get in with this other one, there we go. There's a thin filament that the electricity flows through, and that current is what makes it get hot. So hot that the outer casing, this black metal, turns cherry red. Now, an element that starts to fail, you sometimes will notice an area on your element where it gets overheated. So if you happen to look in your oven, you see one spot that's a deeper, brighter red than the rest of the element. That's the sign that the element is getting ready to fail. And what's happening is when you look inside the element, this is maybe a little hard to see, you can see that that center wire has a white coating all the way around it. One of our cameras picks it up better than the other. So anyway, that's magnesium oxide. It's a powder, and that's an insulator. Over time, that will break down, and it'll allow the filament, or the strand of the element, to get close to the metal casing. And that's where you start to see your hot spot. And if you're seeing a hot spot, it's just a matter of time before it opens up altogether. And sometimes they'll actually touch inside to the metal casing, and you'll wind up seeing a big flash of light in your oven and hear arcing and snapping as the power is going through and is touching this outer case. Usually they'll get to the point when the circuit will either open or it'll trip the breaker or fuse in your home. But that's what happens to bake elements.
We did have a question come through on one of our viewers. I'm just gonna hop over to the computer for a second
Okay.
here and read it out to the group.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so this user has a Kenmore with a glass stove top.
Yeah.
When they turn on burners or baking elements, there's a noticeable buzzing sound. Everything still works, like it gets hot and they can cook, but it buzzes. So what's the issue?
So if these are, you're turning on your burners underneath your glass top, it's not unusual for them to have a slight buzz. If you're have an induction range, they're definitely going to buzz. That's actually a sign that the element is being functioned. You don't hear it until you put your pan on to the radiant element. I'm sorry, not the radiant element, but the induction element, and then you'll hear the buzz. That's perfectly normal. But even the other style of element that's underneath your glass top, they will make a bit of a hum, and that's not an issue really, unless it's something that's totally new and really loud. Then there's a good chance that element's getting ready to probably fail.
Okay, so if it's a new buzzing, then it's an issue.
Yeah.
But if it's just regular startup.
Yeah, if it's something you've experienced ever since you've had it, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's something new and you hear that it's getting louder, it's probably worthwhile to have it checked out.
Oh, we got a response. It is not induction and only started doing it over the last few months. Never has before.
Okay.
So sounds like it is a new concern.
So is it just one burner that you're getting the noise from, or is it coming from any of the surface elements that you turn on?
Stand by for the response, but
Yeah.
we will continue with our bake element while we wait.
Yeah. So this is kind of the same thing as if the technician comes to your home, he's going to ask you all these same kind of questions. It's a little bit of solving a mystery. When is it happening? How long does it happen for? Is it something new, something old? So it's just a whole lot of fact-finding questions in order to try and pin down exactly what is going on. So we'll keep an eye to see if we get a response.
Yeah, it's any of the burners and the bake element in the oven. So stovetop and oven is causing a buzzing sound.
Okay, so that may be caused, so a lot of stoves today use electronic control boards, fancier than what this one is. But what they do is they use that electronic board in order to power up high current items like bake elements and boil elements and surface elements, is they have to use relays. So that's an electric magnetic coil that when the control board says turn on the element, the relay is energized and a set of contacts snap down. Now that coil in that relay will sometimes buzz or chatter. So most likely that's what's happening. Um, Most stoves have two relays, one for either power line L1 and L2. So on that board, there's one of those relays that's starting to buzz and chatter a little bit. It'll probably get louder over time, and eventually it'll just give up the ghost. But there's nothing that you need to worry about at this point. Just be aware that if it starts to get louder, you're probably going to need to have to look at replacing that relay board. Good question, though.
Hopefully that helps.
All right.
Okay. Let's see if I can reinstall the bake element now that we got it out. See if we can get it back in. So we're gonna do the steps in reverse.
There you go.
Okay, so with these little terminals, wires.
Terminals.
These are the terminals. Okay.
Yep.
So there's a flat side and then a coiled bit. Does it matter which one?
Whether they're up or down, no, it
Doesn't
doesn't.
matter at all? Okay,
No.
that is my first question.
And it doesn't matter which wire goes on which terminal.
Okay, I mean, may as well not cross, no crossed wires.
Yeah. So basically, it's just an in and out type of circuit. It's just coming in on one wire and zipping around and meeting up at the other side. So you saw that Sarah had to struggle a little bit to pull them off, and as she pushed them back on, she also had to put a little bit of force in order to get those terminals on. If those terminals had slid on really easy, then we would want to take a pair of pliers and squeeze that terminal a little bit so that it.
Should I do that?
No, I
Or
think
they think they're
I
okay?
think you're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
But if they had to just slipped right on, you're going to wind up with a loose connection over time. And so you just, like I said, just squeeze that terminal a little bit, and that keeps them on there nice and tight.
Need to get that back into insulation. All right, and then it's just lining this up and getting just a couple of little screws to hold it in place. And the element itself has all its little feet.
Yeah. Actually, that's good that you mentioned that, because it's not unusual on the bake elements for those legs are pinched onto the element. But over time, some of them will loosen up and will cause the element to drop. So if you look inside and your oven's your element's sort of leaning to one side, or some part of it's actually touching the bottom of the oven cavity, then one of the legs is probably broken. So in that case, you'll need to repair the element.
Toughest part is lining this back up again. All right, I think we're good.
Now, bake elements, when I first started in the trade, you could almost carry maybe 3 or 4 in your truck, and you could replace a bake. You would have something to replace in just about any oven out there. In today's world, bake elements are engineered a lot differently in order to ensure that you're getting no hot spots and you're getting even baking temperatures. So and the mountings are quite different. The legs are different length, the terminals on the ends are different, the shape is different. So in today's stoves, and we're talking like within the last 10 years, you really need to ensure that if you need to replace your element, that you use your model number and use that when you go to look up your bake element, so you're sure of getting the right part. I've seen some people pick up some universal ones that sort of look like they would work, and they install them and they wind up kind of having the fuses blow in the house and stuff. And because the legs where the terminals were on were actually longer on the one they picked up compared to the one that was in the stove. So when they pushed the element into place and secured it, the terminals were actually touching the back panel of the oven, and that just made it dead short. So make sure you get the right element for your stove, and it just takes away any possibility of having any troubles.
So if we needed to do the broil element, it's
Mhm.
going to be the same process. There's just this extra harness holding up in place to remove.
That's right.
So it's still the connection back there and back there. So
Yep.
same idea. We're gonna
Yep.
remove the harness, take out,
Yep.
unclip the harness from those
Mhm.
two terminals.
Yep.
So the
Exactly.
hardest part, I guess, would just be this
Yeah,
wiring
and
harness holding it up.
yeah, it's just those little screws that hold those legs on, and yeah, it makes it a little trickier, but you can really sort of take. You can even take like and get a piece of wood or a ruler or something and prop it under just to hold it up after you've got the ends pushed in. It just makes it a little easier for it
I suppose
to secure it.
the broil element's probably used less than the bake element.
Yeah, that's
Everyone's day to day.
that's a really good point. In today's stoves, broil is used to maintain the temperature even during bake. So you may never notice it that it's being on because it's never on long enough to get red hot, or it's designed to, they'll put half voltage to it. So it's putting out heat, but it's not enough that it's going to get that radiant heat of being perfectly red and overcooking your food. So there's a lot more technology in ovens today in order to ensure you're getting proper, even, regular temperatures. So they do some really cool things where you cycle the broil element for a few seconds and pulse it to support the bake element or the convection element that's in the back. And the only way you may know that that's even happening is you may hear some relays clicking in the background when your oven's heating. You'll hear the couple extra clicks, and then there'll be a short time again, and then you'll hear them click off, and that's just normal for today's stoves. But oven temperatures now are getting to be so accurate. The improvements are making for far much better working oven temperatures for doing your baking, especially on short cook items like cakes and cookies and things like that. So, all right, Sarah, racks.
Got 'em. Yes, okay, so there's the little divots in the rack and a little divot in. Okay, turns out they're easier to take out back in.
I'm glad you said that because I've spent almost as much time trying to put racks back in after repair than actually doing the repair.
Is there a trick?
I think if you flip that guy upside down,
Way?
there you go. Try that.
Got it, okay.
There you go.
There I was thinking that the divots in it had to match
Yep.
the downward, so.
Yeah. And in some ranges, that's the way they are.
Logic isn't always.
Yeah.
Turns out when you have them the correct direction, they go in very.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Right. So now.
that's an important part. So now the door.
Yes, maybe we'll.
You want to swap around or?
I was like, maybe we'll just put the phone back in the tripod.
Okay.
In case we need extra hands.
Okay.
Okay.
So have you ever dropped a door, Sarah?
Oh, nope.
Ah.
Let's not make today the first.
Okay.
So those retaining clips, those go in after the fact?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the. All right, folks.
There you go.
All right, so doors in.
Yep.
We lost our, okay.
Oh, I don't think that's right.
That's not.
There you go. That
Perfect.
dropped in. Excellent. Now you can open your door and pull those little pins out.
Can I open it? Oh, okay.
Yep.
It just. All right, so these are the pins we put in.
Yep.
To assist us. Those are out. And then
The little
these
clips.
Okay, so how do they go back?
So you see it's got a little bit of a taper.
Yep.
So it goes in like that.
So scoot up from
Yep.
the bottom. Okay, maybe I'll just have you do the first one and then.
Okay. Pushes in.
Oh, and then right down. Oh, okay, so it's not wrapping around. Okay, gotcha. So up. Oh, that was super easy. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not bad at all.
Like I said, some manufacturers use like a metal plate that goes over that area with a screw that holds it, so you can just remove those, but that's the way
That
these
was all it
guys
is.
do it.
Okay, so putting the door back on was way easier than taking the door off. So if you can get it off of the range, you can definitely get it back on again.
Yeah.
It wasn't, just need to line it up into place.
And if you're not sure, if you look in your owner's manual, there's usually a very good description as to what you need to do in order to get your oven door off. And I recommend checking that out just so that you're on the right track. Because if you do happen to pull the door out without having the hinges secured as they need to be, it makes it really, really hard to put the door back on.
Let's see if the door actually closes now that we said all that.
Of course it
Amazing.
does. Ta-da!
Professional work over here.
I tell you.
Perfect.
But that's your first time ever doing it?
Yes.
That's the first time you've probably taken the door off of the stove?
It absolutely is. And we didn't drop it.
Right. But as you can see, nothing special tool-wise. Yes, we used a multimeter to check it out, but in order to remove the element replaced, if you know it's bad, a couple of screwdrivers and whatever mechanism you need in order to get the door off. But it really is just that easy.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yes.
we have been 30 minutes, and that is just as we kind of are talking and talking about a bunch of other stuff and going through it together, trying to learn the process. But 30 minutes and we've replaced the bake element.
And the how-to video that I watched before we did this was only 2.5 minutes long. So you can watch the how-to video, order your part, get the part, and replace it all super quickly yourself.
And you know, to have a servicer come in and do this, he's going to be very quick in doing it. He may, you know, check out some other functions and stuff in order to help ensure that the stove is working well and that you're getting your money's worth. And sometimes that's of great value, but for a very basic repair, you're going to pay for the element anyway. But to have the service call, to have somebody come to your home and to pay to do something that took anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, you know, it's quite a bit of money. So if you're comfortable at all and, you know, you check your owner's manual and, you know, if you like, go to our site, whether you buy the part from us or not. I recommend you do because our parts are fully warranted and all our parts are factory service parts, which means it's the exact same part that the manufacturer used when they built your range. So you know there's not going to be any trouble with the fit and the mounting and how everything goes back together and whether it's going to work right or not. So, but yeah, watch the video that we have for it, and whether it's your bake element or any of the other components on your appliances, we've got information there to help you. So we still get about half an hour if we want, Sarah. I do have a stove here with a hidden bake element. So if you want, I can put that in place. I'll just swap it out.
Change it out. We'll do
And
another.
you guys can see kind of what it's involved in changing that element. And you'll see it's actually quite easy as well.
I'll attempt to help with this as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to roll this guy out of the way.
See if I go 2 for 2 on door removal today.
This one's a little bit different, but a little easier. So this is actually a more modern type stove, of course. It's got this is actually an induction top, and it's a self-clean oven. But the process is basically the same for changing your element, except you just need to be able to find the element, because this is a hidden bake element.
I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but there's like the tray over top of the element.
Yeah. So, and there's something we'll talk about as well as far as this before we've let you all go, just talking about hidden bake elements and what not to put in your oven. So on this manufacturer, they make it quite easy to access the element. Other manufacturers, it's a little bit tougher, but this one's a pretty easy one to do. And this is actually
I think it was on the door, the brand.
I think it's a Frigidaire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one's identical for taking the door off. other than instead of needing those little pins we had to put into place, these guys give you these little latches. This part of the hinge.
Right here?
And you might,
Putty knife?
Yeah.
The best tool for the job?
Yeah.
And does it just pull down?
just give, yeah, now you can see the direction, so.
Cool.
Okay, so that's going to lock the door in place like those little pins. Now we just bring the door up till it's there. And same process, just lift and pull out.
Makes it look so easy.
Oh, yeah. And again, you know, that door has a little bit of weight. You just want to set it aside somewhere, but it's a great time while you have it on. If you want to clean the glass on either side, it's a lot easier than being down on your hands and knees. So.
I now have the knowledge and the motivation to deep clean my own oven and get right in there without the door in the way.
Well, that's the beauty of the hidden bake element. If you want to clean out your oven or you run something, you need to wipe it out. It's so much easier not having that element in place. There's also, you know, less chance of you know, cutting your hand or your fingers as you try to clean the element with a little legs there. So now that we have all that out of there, on this particular make, this floor panel comes right out, which is a really awesome design. We just need to get a screwdriver.
One of our viewers on TikTok gave us an idea for a future video
Yeah.
of how to clean the windows on the oven door.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will do that. Because again, that's something that's pretty common to get staining down in between them, especially from when you go to wipe your stove off or something spills over and runs down into the vents and stains the inside of the glass. So yeah, let's put that on the list, Sarah. And we'll do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And you'll see it's actually not a bad thing to know how to do. So these screws just thread out. So with those out, the floor basically lifts right out. And there's your bake element.
Here, we'll grab this guy from you.
Yep. So again, your bake element is very easy to access. There's 4 screws that hold it. So you just remove those 4 screws, slide this element forward, and if there's enough wire, we don't have to do anything at the back of the stove. Just have a look at speed. Now, this manufacturer, I love the fact that they do this with the cover that comes off for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it really easy to get at this element. There are some manufacturers that use hidden bake element, in fact, a lot do today. But in order to get it out, to replace, you have to take the side panel off and remove it from the side. So it's a little bit more work, a little bit more aggravating, but it's still very doable. These are 4 screws out. Now these elements on the back are curved upward, and you'll know when you go to pull it forward, you'll see that. It's just my wires that are fetching up. Okay. So the wire length isn't as long as what was on Sarah's stove, but still there's enough there for us to replace the bake element, to remove and reinstall from right inside the oven. We don't have to pull it out and take the back off to take the wires off. So that's kind of nice. But everything else is the same. Making sure these are tight, making sure they're not burnt. And then, you know, if there's a need to replace the element because it's opened up, would be the exact same test that we did.
Multimeter time.
So pretty well any element, just has two terminals like that, the test is the same. That element is good as well. If there was no sound, the element would be bad. So that's how easy it is to change one of these elements, even in today's modern day stove. We'll just put our screws back in. Now I tend not to tighten them all up until I have all four in, just so that there's no tension coming from the element. Makes it hard to line up that last one. Put the last one in. Like that. And there we go.
And that's it. She's back in.
Yep.
So I will grab the
Oh.
floor. I got it over here. So this, I noticed when I was carrying it over,
Yes.
it says, I'm sure, let's see if we can get this for you folks here to see. Do not use tin foil on bottom. It's embossed right in the bottom of the oven. Do not cover this with tin foil. I know folks like to do that
Yep.
because they think it'll make spill cleanup easier,
Yep.
but it's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah. So this is a really cool thing, and it's great that they've done this because, growing up, there was always tinfoil underneath the element at home, and that's fine on a stove like Sarah changed the element in. But on these, because all the heat's coming up from underneath and it's so intense, if you have tinfoil on here, it will actually melt and bond the tinfoil right to the bottom floor. So, you know, you take everything out of your oven and you go to peel the tinfoil out, and it just comes off in strips and half of it's stuck on. And then you chip and you scratch and you fight and chew trying to get it off, and you won't get it all off. So that just makes the time when you look at yourself clean, that this isn't going to clean properly, because there's still some tinfoil stuck to it. Now, the beauty I like of this manufacturer is the fact that this floor is removable. As you saw, it's so easy, 2 screws and it comes out. So if I did make a mistake and by chance I had tinfoil here and it's stuck, it's not the end of the world. I can order this part and change it myself. A lot of manufacturers, this floor is part of the entire liner. And the only way you're going to fix it then, if you've got tinfoil stuck to it, is to replace the entire liner. And in today's world, most manufacturers do not make that as a serviceable part. In other words, you can't order it. So if you've got tinfoil stuck to it, you're just going to have to live with it.
Yeah. So the summary is don't line the bottom of your oven.
Yeah.
Clean up spills once they've cooled.
Yeah.
And save yourself all of that hassle.
And it happens more often than you think, that people forget to leave the tinfoil in there, and that's what happens. And trust me, if you were to try and go back to your manufacturers, and I've seen it happen on stoves that are really old, but if you try to go back to your manufacturer and say, oh, hey, you know, there's a problem with the oven liner, they're not going to cover it, because you'll find this information in the owner's manual, which tells you the same thing as this panel does, not to put tinfoil in there. the screws back in.
So those are two main lessons for everyone today. It's not as hard as it looks to do your own repairs. Don't put foil in the bottom of your oven.
You know, it's funny, I have this conversation a lot. Even on the stoves that you don't have to worry about, that you can put tin foil in, it creates some other issues. One, it's easy to clean up. That's the main reason you do it. But that tin foil is very reflective. And when your bake element is on and it's that nice bright cherry red and you know it's heating up a storm, well, that tin foil will affect your temperature. In other words, when that element's on in cherry red, it's now giving off infrared heat beside the regular convection style heating that it's doing. So those that infrared energy is hitting the tin foil and it's bouncing off and it's hitting different spots in your oven. So you're actually creating hot spots in different places in your oven, which is going to make it really, really hard to get even baking when you get trays of cookies in on the racks. You're going to have hot spots, some are going to be cooked harder than others, and you probably felt this and wondered, why is my oven doing this? And it'll change. Sometimes it might be this side, it might be that side, but that's one of the drawbacks of having tin foil in your oven when you're doing short bake ovens. Anyway, that's my spiel. Some people take it to heart, some people tell me I'm crazy. They may be right, who knows? But if you check your owner's manual, you'll find that they don't recommend. All right, I'm going to pop the door back on.
Use this opportunity if anyone has further questions about the range, laundry, the lawnmower. We've got time to answer. And if you are around next Friday, we are going to be doing another live stream just like this. It's going to be exclusively on YouTube and Facebook this time. So check out our channels there. And it'll be all about lawnmowers. And we might even have a brand new mower to give to a viewer. So it's a great week to tune in, learn about your outdoor power equipment, and possibly have a nice present sent to you at home.
Yeah, beautiful brand new Cub Cadet lawnmower. It's a beautiful machine, and in order to get entered into the contest to win it, all you need to do is ask us a question during the live. And we'll record your question, and it doesn't matter if it's on mowers or ranges or fridges or whatever. We'll try to answer the best we can, but that question will get you an entry into the draw for the lawnmower. Yeah, I did it upside down as well.
Oh, so it's, yeah, doesn't matter if you are a beginner or a veteran, the oven racks will get the best of you.
Yes, that's a fact. That's a fact.
But we did get one question on TikTok from Leon, which I need a little more clarity on. You say when the oven is in use, their breaker trips. But there's not really a question. Is there a question asking why your breaker is tripping? I guess just some more details from you, Leon, to get you a response would be great.
Yeah. But if you're using your stove, or if it's the oven when it's doing that and it's tripping the breaker or blowing the fuses, it's drawing too much power. So again, the questions, as we play detective, we ask those questions. Is this something that's just happened recently? Has it always done this? Does it only do it when you're, say, doing a roast as compared to doing cookies with short cook time? And that kind of helps us narrow down what may be going on, but it shouldn't be. What may be happening, if you're using circuit breakers, your circuit breaker might be getting weak. So if you have your oven on and you're using a surface burner, those breakers are usually 40 amps. So what can happen is over time, the breakers from in use, they get worn and they get very sensitive. So even though there's not the rated amount of 40 amps going through it, there's enough that it's going to trip that breaker. So one of the ways you can tell is if the moment it trips, if you go down, or even if you turn your oven on and go down to your fuse panel or your breaker panel and just put your fingers I mean, this is with the cover on and everything, but you open the door with your fingers when the breaker's there. And if you're feeling a fair bit of warmth coming off the breaker, then it's the breaker that's probably the problem. Okay.
We'll call it a
Call it a day.
on this
Yeah.
week's stream. I
Yeah.
said tune in next Friday to talk all things lawn and outdoor power equipment. And then 2 weeks from now, we are going to be back with another major appliances, learning about washers.
There you go. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you being there. We hope we've been able to give you some useful information. And if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to send them in to us. We'd be glad to try and answer them.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.